Look at this bin. For decades, we have been told a comfortable lie that if we just flip this bottle upside down, look for the little triangular arrow and drop it in here, the problem is solved. We feel a small spark of civic pride. We just did our part. Except it's almost completely a myth. As we sit here in 2026, the global reality is staggering. Only about 9% of all plastics ever made has actually been recycled. In countries like the UK, despite billions spent on green infrastructure, the real recycling rate for total plastics used hover right around the same dismal 9%. The remaining 91% is either burned, leaking toxic chemicals into the air, buried in landfills where it outlives empires, or fragmenting into microplastics that are currently sitting inside your lungs, your blood vessels, and your food. Every year, governments stand on international stages, promise to ban single-use plastics. We hear about straw bans, bag bans, and global climate treaties. Of course, Ghana recently banned the production, the importation, distribution, and sale and use of styrofoams and plastic bags, effective by the 1st of January 2027. Yet, look at the actual data. Global plastic production isn't slowing down, it's accelerating. The global plastic market is valued at almost 550 billion this year and is on the track to grow past 830 billion by next decade. Why? Why can the world successfully ban ozone-depleting CFCs, regulate toxic lead, and phase out asbestos? But when it comes to a flimsy grocery bag or a coffee lid, the entire global political machine grinds to a halt. Today, you look at the greenwashing, you look at the actual chemistry, the brutal global economics, and the hidden infrastructure keeping us hooked. This is why humanity is trapped in plastic matrix, and why nations can't seem to break free. To understand why we can't ban plastic, you first have to understand that plastic is a scientific miracle. It is arguably the most perfect material ever engineered by human beings. Before the mid-20th century, if you wanted to package something, you need a few choices: glass, wood, plastic, or metal. Think about the physics of glass. It's heavy. It requires massive amount of heat, nearly 1,500 degrees Celsius, to melt and form. When you ship a truckload of glass bottles, a massive percentage of the fuel burned is just moving the weight of the packaging and not the product inside. And if you drop it, it shatters. Glass alone weighs between 200 to 300 grams as compared to plastic that is only 10 to 20 grams. Its melting point is about 1,500 degrees Celsius, and plastic, just 250 degrees Celsius. By chaining together hydrocarbons derived from petroleum refining, chemists created materials like polyethylene and polypropylene. These materials are biological ghosts because they don't exist in nature. Bacteria and fungi have no evolutionary tools to break them down. Plastic is completely sterile. It blocks oxygen, steals out moisture, protects medical equipment from contamination, and prevents food from spoiling. Wrap a single cucumber in less than 2 grams of plastic film, and you extend its shelf life from 3 days to 2 weeks. It sounds minor, but on a global scale, that tiny piece of plastic prevents millions of tons of food from going waste, which itself is a massive driver of greenhouse gases. And then there is this economic kicker. It is insanely, unbelievably cheap. Because plastic is a literal byproduct of oil and gas refining, fossil fuel companies have optimized its production down to the fraction of a cent. When an industrial molding machine can spit out thousands of bottle caps in a minute for pennies, any alternative, whether it is aluminium, glass, or expensive bioplastic made from cornstarch, feels like an economic suicide for a business. Governments know this. If a nation tomorrow issue a blanket ban on all single-use plastics, the cost of food, medicine, and basic consumer goods will skyrocket overnight. In an era where inflation already breaks government and swings elections, no politicians want to sign a law that makes milk and bread 30% more expensive just to change the packaging. But wait, if plastic is so hard to replace, why didn't we just build a perfect system to recycle it? To answer that, we have to look back at one of the most successful corporate public relations campaigns in human history. In the 1970s and 80s, the public was starting to push back against plastic litter, clogging up highways and beaches. Cities were actually threatening to ban plastic packaging. Terrified of losing their most profitable markets, the world's largest oil and chemical companies did something brilliant. They shifted the blame to you. They introduced the chasing arrows symbol. To the average consumer, these 3 arrows mean this item is recyclable. But it doesn't. Literally, that symbol is just a resin identification code indicating what type of plastic it is. There are 7 major categories of plastic, and they do not mix. If you melt a type 1 PET water bottle with a type 2 HDPE milk jug, a different molecular length ruins the batch. It turns into a brittle, useless sludge. To make matters worse, plastic is highly sensitive to contamination. A tiny smear of peanut butter on a paper label can ruin an entire batch of recycled plastic. Furthermore, every time you melt down plastic, the polymer chains shorten, degrading the material's quality. A plastic bottle can usually only be recycled once or twice before it becomes so degraded. It has to be thrown away anyway. Compare that to aluminum or glass, which can be melted down and recycled an infinite number of times without zero loss in quality. And because sorting and washing thousands of different types of plastic is incredibly labor-intensive and expensive, high-income countries quickly realized it was cheaper to just ship it away. For decades, Western nations exported millions of tons of plastic waste to developing countries under the guise of recycling. Even in 2025, data showed Germany exporting over 810,000 tons of plastic waste overseas, with the UK close behind at over 675,000 tons. Much of this ends up mismanaged, dumped in open rivers or buried in unregulated incinerators in Southeast Asia and Africa. The recycling system wasn't broken, it was designed this way to keep us buying virgin plastics without feeling guilty. But there is even a deeper, darker reasons nations refuse to pass sweeping plastic bans. The petrochemical survival strategy. Right now, the global energy landscape is shifting. Electric vehicles are cutting into gasoline demand. Renewable energy is slowly squeezing fossil fuels out of electricity grids. If you are an oil major like ExxonMobil or Saudi Aramco, you see the writings on the wall. Your primary product, crude oil for transport, has an expiration date, so where do you pivot? Petrochemicals, specifically plastics. According to the International Energy Agency, IEA, petrochemicals led heavily by plastics are projected to become the single largest driver of global oil demand, accounting for nearly half of all oil demand growth by 2040. When an oil company pumps crude oil out of the ground, they refine it. About 10% of that barrel becomes naphtha, a chemical feedstock for plastic. If they can't sell gasoline, they sell plastic. Over the last decade, fossil fuel companies have invested hundreds of billions of dollars into building massive cracker plants, industrial facilities that turn natural gas and oil into a raw pellets used to make plastic. Because of this massive oversupply, virgin plastic is cheaper than it has ever been. In fact, it is significantly cheaper to manufacture a brand new virgin plastic bottle from freshly dumped oil than to collect, wash, salt, and process a recycled one. Think about the geopolitical weight of this. The nations with the most power on earth, the United States, China, Saudi Arabia, and members of the European Union, are the world's absolute dominant producers of virgin plastic. The plastics industry in the US alone contributes nearly $450 billion to the GDP. When a small country tries to pass a strict ban, they aren't just fighting local supermarkets. They are fighting the legal, the political, and the lobbying muscles of this multi-trillion-dollar global oil and gas industry. There is also a massive issue of global equity that makes a universal plastic ban almost impossible. In high-income nations, single-use plastic is largely a matter of convenience. We use it because we want a quick iced coffee or a pre-washed bag of salad. If a wealthy country bans plastic bags, its citizens can afford to buy $5 reusable canvas totes. But in developing low-middle-income nations, plastic isn't just convenient, it's a lifeline. Enter the sachet economy. In countries across Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America, millions of people live on daily wages. They cannot afford to buy a full-size bottle of shampoo, a large tube of cooking oil, or a box of laundry detergent. Instead, Consumer goods corporations package these products into tiny, single-use plastic, multi-layered pouches called sachets, sold for just a few cents each. These sachets are made up of complex sandwich of plastic film and aluminum foil, making them completely unrecyclable. Worse yet, an estimated 1.5 billion people globally live without any formal municipal waste collection services. When there is no garbage truck coming to pick up your trash, you have two choices. Let it pile up in your yard or burn it behind your house. If a developing nation tries to ban a single-use plastics and sachets without a multi-billion-dollar alternative ready, they risk cutting off their poorest citizens from basic hygiene, clean water, and affordable food. It creates a magic paradox. The nations suffering the worst environmental consequences of plastic pollution are often the ones least economically equipped to ban it. So where does this leave us? Are we just doomed to live on a planet wrapped in polyethylene? The truth is, a blanket ban on all plastic is a fantasy. We need plastic for our electric vehicle components, our solar panels, our sterile medical syringes, and our global food supply chain. The real battle isn't against plastic as a material, it's against the concept of disposability. Right now, the United Nations is locked in intense negotiation for a global, legally binding plastic treaty. The major sticking point? High-income nations and oil producers want to focus entirely on improving recycling. Meanwhile, scientists and vulnerable nations are screaming for a cap on how much new plastics can be produced in the first place. True solutions require restructuring the economic incentives. For example, the extended producer responsibility, that is, forcing companies to pay for the entire life cycle management of packaging they create. Again, national deposit return systems, that is, standardizing glass and heavy-duty plastic containers that are washed and reused 50 times instead of shredded after just a single use. Until governments stop treating plastic waste as a consumer recycling issue and start treating it as a fossil fuel regulation issue, the cycle will continue. The next time you hold a piece of single-use plastic, look at it not as a trash, but as a tiny piece of ancient oil processed by a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure designed to be used for 5 minutes and destined to last for 500 years. The system isn't broken, it is working exactly as intended. The question is, when are you going to demand a new design? If you want to see how war affects our dear environment, click here for a deep dive on how our air, our land, and water get destroyed by a single explosion. See you there, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your comment with us. Thank you.